Hi, I'm Kevin Eschenfelder, and for the past 30 years, I've been the pre- and post-game host for the most part for the Rockets and the Houston Astros. Now I work for Space City Home Network, but I was born in Houston and raised every day of my life in Stafford, Texas. I lived every day of my life in Stafford, Texas until I went to college. That was the first time I lived anywhere other than 1723 Pecan Lane, right there in the Crestmont Village subdivision, and that's where we live. My parents were married in Stafford. My mother grew up in Stafford, so yeah, the roots run very, very deep. Growing up in my early years, it was very much about family, and all of my family lived in Stafford. In fact, my mother was one of 5 children, the Falsone family, and my uncles, my aunt, they all lived right there. In fact, my aunt and uncle lived right down the street from me. We all lived within about 5 miles of each other. So family was very, very important. A big Italian family, a lot of cousins, and a lot of big Christmases and birthdays and things like that. And I remember that very fondly. There's a couple of things that were very important to me. One was Holy Family Catholic Church, the original one right there on Main Street, not the one that's now in Missouri City, but the one that was originally there in Stafford. That's where my parents were married, and that's where I started going to church as a very, very small child, obviously Sunday school and then catechism and things like that. That's one place. And there's another place that I always remember too. One was the Viking Den, because that was a little restaurant that back before there were a lot of fast food places there in Stafford. The Viking Den was a little diner and a place where a lot of people went. Another one was a place called A Hair Place. Nat Castro, he cut my hair all the time as a kid. That was right there on Main Street in Stafford. So yeah, those are some places that I spent a lot of time at. You know, one thing I remember very distinctly was my grandmother's house was right on Main Street in Stafford, literally right across Highway 90 from the railroad track. And I remember my father calling over there one time, and I was there with my grandmother, my uncle, and they said, you know, hey, there's an escapee from Sugar Land that is on the train. And I'm not kidding. They stopped, the DPS had the train tracks blocked, and they stopped that train. And I saw that escapee jump from car to car while we stood on the front porch, literally, I don't know, 100 yards away, and watched him jump from car to car and watched the police take him and arrest him right there in front of us. Yeah, he was an escaped prisoner from the penitentiary there in Sugar Land. That's something I will never forget. I guess the biggest difference with the Stafford that I grew up was basically the streets, because there were no overpasses, and you had to go all the way to where the Southwest Freeway came over Main Street to find that overpass. Now you've got an overpass where Murphy Road is, and then sometimes I get turned around even when I'm there now, and I still go see my Aunt Bessie Falsone still lives there, so you know I still have reason to go back there. That's the only family member left as far as there in that town. But yeah, it's sometimes I have to be careful. It's not as easy as driving when I was a kid, because you just knew where you were going, but now things have changed a little bit. But that's progress, and you know, traffic is better, and now you got to watch your speed too. When you get on 90, 98, we called it 98. When you get on 98 going past Murphy Road and headed towards Sugar Land, you got to watch your speed, because they'll get you. You know, growing up, I always knew I wanted to be a broadcaster, and being where we lived not too far from Highway 90. We would go straight up Highway 90 to the Astrodome, where as a kid, I saw a lot of Oiler games and things like that. So we had great proximity to where I wanted to be, and that's where I knew the Astrodome is where I knew I wanted to be a broadcaster, and something that I've been able to live out that dream.